Okay, welcome to the Power Platform Training webinar series organized by Eperformance Training Academy. This introduction to Power Platform is the first in the series. My name's Steve Boulay, and I'm joined by my colleague Adewole Adewumi. Hello, Adewale.
Hi, Steve.
So Adewale is the Power Platform expert that will be taking you through the activities in this webinar. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat, making sure that questions are being addressed. Please note that we will have a Q&A at the end, and some of your questions may be addressed then, but don't be shy to type in um, any questions or comments you have as we go along. We will talk briefly on each component of Power Platform, including Power BI and Power Virtual Agent, and discuss in detail two major components, Power Apps and Power Automate. We will show you a real life business scenario and how Power Apps and Automate solve the problem. We'll also touch on additional training offers, and at the end, we'll discuss a chance to win a discount on a training course of your choice with Eperformance. So we can go to the next slide, please. All right, so a little background on ePerformance. We're a Canadian software house with over 20 years of experience specializing in medium to large enterprise portal software solutions based on Microsoft technologies. We are a Microsoft Gold partner with a training academy specializing in Microsoft products, including Power Platform and Dynamic 365. We're a technology leader in delivering functionality today for tomorrow's solutions. We are a trusted partner of our clients. We have successfully implemented solutions for both government and non-government organizations. ePerformance is the standard bearer for the Canadian government when it comes to grants and contributions. Departments in the government of Canada both trust and appreciate the work done by ePerformance to provide them with robust and reliable applications. ePerformance assists public sector organizations and associations in the design and deployment of enterprise solutions that focus on creating business value. We'll take a look on the next slide at some of our skills. And that includes secure cloud services, solution delivery services, Microsoft Dynamics Consulting, ePerformance Training Academy, and custom training solutions. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Adewale to go through the agenda today and start taking you through the activities. Thank you, Adewale.
Thank you so much, Steve. All right, so my name again is Adewale, and of course, I'm a Microsoft certified Azure developer, and I'll be taking you through the agenda for today. Um, Bear with me. Okay, all right, so we're going to be looking at what Power Platform is. I mean, what are the components that make up the Power Platform? And why should we even bother about Power Platform? What's the whole essence? What's the whole fuzz about Power Platform? We're going to be looking at why. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at some business scenarios, how we can actually move paper processing into automation using Power Platform, and then how we can actually automate approval processes using Power Platform. Of course, so this is the agenda, and let's jump right in. So the Microsoft Power Platform basically comprises of four components, as we see in this blue highlighted area. It comprises of the Power BI, which essentially is for visualizing data. We'll talk more about it. And then, of course, it has the component for developing applications, business applications, and that is covered under Power Apps. Now, the component that allows us to automate processes is the Power Automate. And of course, we have the Power Virtual Agents, which allows us to build chatbots for our websites, our teams, or whatever platform we want to target. So it gives us that functionality, that baseline functionality that allows us to easily create very, very intelligent chatbots. Yeah, so these are the four components that make up the Power Platform. And of course, under this platform, we have an underlying data layer. We could call it a database or data service called Microsoft Dataverse. And what it does is that it provides the data, or it stores the data that can be used across all of these platforms. So whatever data we have here can be accessed in Power BI. It can be accessed in Power Apps. You can also access the same thing in Power Automate, as well as in the Power Virtual Agents. Okay, and then in the Power Platform as well, we have data connectors, because it provides us, these data connectors basically provides us ability to connect with different apps in the cloud. And of course, we also have the AI builder component, which can allow us to apply AI or artificial intelligence capabilities into our various Power Platform components. So these are the underlying components built in the Power Platform ecosystem. Okay. All right. So now let's jump into each of these components, the components that make up the Power Platform, starting with Power BI. What is it, and what is so unique about the Power BI? So as we can see, it's focused on allowing us to visualize data, to make sense out of data, because we live in a world of information overload, and of course, data is we have the concept of big data. So we want to be able to make sense out of this data, and that is what Power BI gives us the ability to do, to be able to make sense out of the data that we have available to us. So, among other things, it allows us to it takes away the stress of having to clean up data, because it provides us ability to be able to easily clean up our data and get it ready to be able to so that we can actually look through it and be able to make sense and be able to make decisions, business decisions from that data. And one of the interesting things again about Power BI is that it's able to connect to multiple data sources. So you could connect to various data sources where your data is located, and then pull everything into one platform. So you have all those data in one platform, which makes it very convenient, of course. And then from there, you can actually go ahead and begin to maybe comb through the data and try to see or make visuals, create visual images of that data. So that is one of the good things, or one of the uniqueness about Power BI. Okay, then we jump on to the second component of the Power Platform, which is the platform that allows us to build applications, business applications. And these applications could be web applications, that is, applications that are targeted towards the web. They could be applications that are targeted towards mobile devices. And of course, uh, the underlying mantra of Power Platform is low code or no code. What this simply means is that with little code, with little or no code, you can actually do quite a lot. You can actually achieve a lot with little or no code. So it now takes development from having to rely on just pro developers, and pushes it down to business users. Everyday business users can be able to leverage the tools that Power Platform provides to be able to build applications that solve their problems, the problems they face on a daily basis. So instead of waiting for a developer, I mean, Power Platform gives them the tools they can actually leverage to be able to create solutions that help them to better their processes, become more efficient in their processes. So that's the Power Apps component of the Power Platform. We'll be talking a bit about it. I'm going to be showing you some demos around it today. Then, of course, we have the Power Automate. So you have tasks that are repetitive in nature. You have things that are, that kind of it goes in a kind of repeated approach that you think that you can actually automate. Power Automate allows us to be able to automate such processes that are kind of repetitive in nature. It allows us to be able to automate those processes. So you just click a button and then some actions happen. So some of the features that, or some of the things that Power Automate helps us to do is to maybe do things like grant approvals, maybe get a notification when a record has been entered into the database. You'll be notified and all of that. So that is part of those are part of the things that Power Automate allows us to do. For instance, someone wants to maybe take a vacation and then maybe they do an application online, and then Power Automate will be able to sense that, okay, a record has been submitted, and then based on the record, you can actually channel it or give it logic to direct that application to probably an approver, maybe a manager that's going to approve the process, and then the person will be able to get feedback in good time instead of having to wait a long time. So Power Automate basically allows us to do that. Then, of course, we come to the component that talks about the chatbots, the ability to be able to create intelligent devices probably for our websites where we have maybe a lot of visitors, and then of course maybe like we have a call center facility where different calls come in, and then there are some questions that usually come every time, maybe like frequently asked questions. And for instance, we could have a web page that has frequently asked questions. Power Virtual Automate can actually point to that frequently, that FAQ page, get the data from there and be able to respond to users, in real time. So these are some of the features that it actually provides us to be able to go to a website, pull out the frequently asked questions, load it into its knowledge base, and then be able to respond to users. So when users come to your site, it will just be pulling up topics. I mean, if they throw questions at the bot, it will be able to pull its knowledge from your frequently asked questions web page. And not only that, when the users respond, when it sees or it's not able to answer some particular questions, it can actually direct users to a real agent. So for instance, it's not able to answer a question, or the question is not currently in its knowledge bank, it can direct the user to a human that will be able to address such issues. So that's the Power Virtual Automate. Basically allows us to build chatbots. All right. So like we said, the Power Platform basically takes development away from just really having to rely on pro developers to citizen developers. The word citizen developers there simply means business users who are not necessarily developers, but who have, who work, understand the business very well. And of course, they come in contact with these issues on a daily basis. So they're able to leverage the tools that Power Platform provides in order to be able to solve their business problems. So that is what Power Platform does. Basically empowers every kind of developer, whether it's a citizen developer, medium level developer, which we call IT developer, or a pro developer. Any of them can actually be able to leverage the tools that the Power Platform provides to develop solutions, custom solutions. Okay, so we have that total is greater than sum of the part. Simply saying that none of these developers are none of them is indispensable. I mean, each of them has their role to play. The citizen developer is usually like the first line of contact. They understand the business well, so they can actually build solutions. But it gets to a time when they are limited, or when they are not able to, they can actually now pass the buck to the IT or the pro developers to take over. So at least everyone is well represented on the platform. So what are the various types of Power Apps we have? Remember, in Power Platform, we have the Power Apps component. Under this Power Apps component, which allows us to build applications, we have three different kinds of applications. We have the Canvas applications. We're going to be talking more about it. We have the model-driven application, and of course, we have the portal application. Okay, so for the Canvas applications, we're still going to be talking more about it in the other slides, but just to give you a preview, for the Canvas applications, it allows us to build custom applications, totally custom applications. Whereas for the model-driven applications, the applications are that will be built basically are centered around data, and you will see what I mean very shortly. Then for the portal application, it allows us to build applications that are that can be placed on the web, like web applications. So these are the three types of Power Apps we have. We have portal applications, we have model-driven applications, and of course we have Canvas applications. So to be able to access the Power Apps environment, we have what is called a maker portal. and we access that environment using the make.powerapps.com. So I'll just quickly show you that while we as we move on. So we go to, so if we come here, so actually this is the maker portal where you have, this is the maker portal, and then we also have the admin portal, which is right here. So here you can actually create environments. You can create an environment, like I created one for this webinar. Okay, so we can create an environment, and then here we can actually go ahead and begin to create business applications very fast. We can create a blank one. We can create one from Dataverse. We can create one from SharePoint. We can create one from an Excel file. I mean, you can create one from SQL and the likes. So let's go back to what we're talking about. So
And
that,
Adewale,
yes.
if I can just share a quick personal story to show how easy it
Sure.
is. When I was first introduced to Microsoft Power Apps, I kind of introduced myself and was through like my own investigation and just trying things out, I was able to build, within a very short period of time. It was in the same week I was able to build my own little app to share information about a new product with where I was at the time. So that's where the low and no code content comes in that Adewale mentioned earlier, where it's that easy to pick up and learn and get a feel for it. Just to share how
Sure.
quickly you can pick it up,
Exactly.
and the benefits that it has with that low no code um, methodology.
Exactly. Yeah. Steve's experience is one of many and several experiences of people all over the world. I mean, using the Power Platform. It's provides a very, very low barrier of entry to just about anyone. All you just need to know is the basics of maybe PowerPoint and Excel. That's all. With that, you can actually get started, creating different kinds of applications for business purposes. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. Now, also, so I just talked about the fact that when we set up in our Power Platform, we usually set up environments. So the environment is usually where we work. Um, okay, so we have different types. You have the trial environment, you have a sandbox environment, you have the production environment. So usually, if the trial environment usually expires after 30 days, so after 30 days, all the work you've done will be gone. Then for the sandbox environment, basically it's more like a testing environment. And then similarly, we also have the production environment. So basically, we set up our environments, and then from there we'll be able to go ahead and create the various applications that we have. So for the Power Apps Canvas application, which is one type of Power App that we have, the Canvas application. So this one basically allows us to create applications that target usually tablet devices and mobiles and tablet devices. And it allows us to be able to design all of those components, everything that you see on the Canvas app can actually be designed. So you can actually design everything as you want it to be. Unlike in the model-driven app, which we're coming to, those ones are basically components. So they are already pre-built. You only just pick whatever is there and make use of it. It doesn't change. It's the same. It has the same look and feel. But you can actually customize your Canvas apps 100%. Okay, so we're going to be seeing more about the So this is an example of a Canvas application. You have a view here, and then of course you have yet another view here and some data showing. Okay, and again the Power Apps Canvas apps allows us to be able to connect to different data sources. You could connect to Excel. You could connect to just about any data source out there. There are quite a number of them, 300 plus sources that you can connect your Canvas application to. Now, Canvas apps also help business power users to create and make use of business applications. There's a kind of process, there's a kind of step-by-step flow. So the first thing in creating business applications, it starts with connecting to data source. You connect to a data source. It could be anywhere. It could be maybe an Excel file that you already have, or maybe a database you're already working with. You can actually connect to it, and then from there, it will be able to it will automatically create an application comprising of forms and different this thing for you without necessarily having to write any line of code. Let me see if I can actually just show you that very, very quickly for the Power Apps. So there's this one that says start with say data verse, for instance. Let's say start with data verse. Okay, with data verse, Microsoft data verse create. Okay, accounts. Let's say accounts, for instance, connect. So I'm just connecting to a data source now, and you see how it's going to load up an application very quickly for me. Skip, and technically I have an application already by just connecting to a data source. I have an application already. And how do I know that I have it? If I click on the run button here, this is an application already. If I click on this, it shows me, okay, this is the account name, city, and all of that. I can come here and edit it, add a city, for instance, and then click on that. It saves it. I have it there. I can also edit it again and add my phone number. Maybe 1, 2, 3, and save. And then we have it. So you can go back again, you can open up yet another record. So you can see how very quickly, all I just needed to do was just to connect to a data source, and the system was able to automatically generate or create a quick application for me. You could see how fast that was, and it's very, very functional. So if I search for it, so it's basically a fully functional application. So that brings is able to shed more light on what we're trying to talk about here. The fact that with to be able to build a Canvas app is as easy as just connecting to a data source, and then the system generates or creates an application for you comprising of forms, workflows, and you don't need to write any line of code. We didn't have to write any line of code to be able to generate that. And the good thing is that that application we built can be shared. We can actually share it across, probably in a work environment. We can share it across our colleagues to be able to test it out, and then be able to even use it use it in their business, in solving their business challenges. So that's how easy it is to create a Canvas application. Of course, it also provides ability to be able to connect to even on-premise data sources. I mean, you can connect to databases on-premise that is within an organization. You can connect to cloud services, that is services that are outside of an organization. You can connect to web APIs and the likes. Again, of course, it's cross-platform, so we can actually publish our applications on iOS. You can publish it on Android and, of course, Windows. And of course, we can also publish it on the web and share it just like we're sharing documents. Okay, so that's how interesting or how easy it is to work with Canvas applications. That application I had now, I can actually just take it. If I can download the Android Power Apps mobile Android, I can actually download that app and then share it within my organization and allow different users to interact with the same application. So that's how easy it is to create one. So we have the Power
At
Apps
Wale,
mobile. Yes.
we have a question in the chat, which I think you may have just answered it,
Okay.
asking for Canvas apps.
Mhm.
There's only the option for mobile and tablet displays. There's no way to make it fit a desktop screen. Is that correct?
It can also work for desktop screens as well. You can actually access them on desktop screens as well. But usually the Canvas app usually targets the tablet and mobile devices. But if you try to access it on a desktop, it will also still display. but usually the Canvas app is targeted at mobile devices, tablets and mobiles.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
awesome. Thanks for the question. All right, so the Power Apps mobile again is, like I said, is accessible on the various stores, be it Microsoft App Store, the Google Play, and the Apple App Store. So we can actually access that, download it, and be able to work with the Power Apps mobile. Now, that brings us to the next type of application. So we've just looked at the Canvas application. We even saw how easy it was to just create one by just connecting to a data source. Now we also have another type of uh, um, Power App application called the model-driven application. I usually refer to it as a data-driven application because you can't have a model-driven application without data. There has to be some data. You must have some data for it to be able to have a model-driven application. So I like to call it Power Apps data-driven application because it relies on tables that are already existing within Microsoft Dataverse. Remember that I talked about Microsoft Dataverse being the data service that holds the data that Power Platform basically interacts with. So for you to be able to have a model-driven application, you must have some tables, you must have some data models, relationships, and business processes set up in your Microsoft Dataverse. And then from there, you can actually build an end-to-end application using the Power Apps model-driven application. So this is what a typical model-driven application will look like. It looks almost the same anywhere you go. It has this same look and feel. And if you are familiar with Dynamics 365, you would be familiar with the interface. So this is it, and this is like a business process flow, which we're going to be building very quickly in this webinar. Okay. Now again, the Power Apps model-driven application allows us to, this is the flow for creating a model-driven application. You start with a rich component where you don't have to write any code. The component is already there, so you just use it and then it will down display your data that you're working with. And then, of course, if you want to add business rules or business process rules, you can actually go ahead and add them, and it will be able to also display across multiple devices, be it mobile, tablets, or desktop. Okay, so this is what the designer for a model-driven application looks like. We're going to be seeing one shortly, but this is what it looks like. This is the design view, and you can see that we have an entity here. So you will see how this entity is added to a model-driven application by simply going to the sitemap. You just pick that, oh, I want to make use of this entity and this entity and this entity, and all of them will appear on the entity view. And when you run the model-driven application, you get something like this. So this is what it looks like. Again, it has a kind of generic feel across board. All model-driven applications tend to look alike. Okay. Then, so the components of a model app designer includes the sitemap, dashboard, forms, views, charts, and business process flow. These are all the components. So you can see the sitemap here, which allows us to set the navigation for our Power App model-driven application, and then dashboards if you want to be able to display visuals based on the data that is found within your model-driven application. You can actually have that. And then, of course, all the entities that you add in your sitemap will come in here as entities. So you're going to be seeing that very shortly. Now we have business process flows with our so this business process flows basically just refer to ways to be able to guide users through filling the forms that involve a step-by-step approach. So you need to, maybe you want to fill a form in a particular order, and then you can actually turn that into a business process flow. When you want users to fill forms in a particular way, you want them to fill it in a particular order, and then you want some certain information to be provided, or certain information to be provided, you can actually use a business process flow, to guide users through filling the forms. For instance, maybe grants application, you can actually guide them using a business process flow. So that's basically what it's meant for, to guide users through a process from one step to the other until they get to the final stage. And then, of course, that could be like an approval stage. So by doing this, you find out that anyone coming into the system for the first time, they will require very little training when you have a business process flow in place. So if they already know, okay, so this is the first step, and then it goes in a stepwise manner to be able to allow users to be familiar with the system. So one of the advantages of a business process flow is that there'll be little need for training when that is in place in a business. Similarly, you can have business rules. All of these are added to our, remember, we're adding all of these to our model-driven application. So business rules are like things that, rules that the business goes by. But in more technical terms, we refer to them as server-side logic that is bound to the tables within our Microsoft Dataverse. So for instance, you have an account table, for instance, which represents maybe a business. You want certain fields maybe to be populated based on certain actions. Maybe, for instance, you want to be able to want a field to be calculated when certain input is entered in a particular field, or you want to create a validation such that maybe when a certain field is blank, the system should throw an error message or through a notification that this field is required. So those are kind of rules that can be set in place within our model-driven application. Okay, and of course, we can also have things like workflows that run real time. So let's look at a business scenario very quickly and see how we can actually try to um, help them, see how they can actually leverage Power Platform to be able to build something very, very not too complex, but build it very, very fast. So we have an XYZ organization, which is basically a government, it's just a fictitious organization, government-funded organization that supports small businesses in Ontario financially impacted by COVID-19. Now, this particular organization receives hundreds of applications daily through phone or email, and their employees take up to 4 weeks to be able to respond to the applications because of the volume. And they're looking at, how can we solve this problem? How can we be able to go about reducing the effort we have to put in by leveraging Power Platform? So that's the problem they have, and it's expected that by leveraging Power Platform, they'll be able to improve the efficiency, reduce the manual processing, and then increase their automation so that they'll be able to, get better in terms of efficiency. So how can Power Platform help them achieve their goal? So that's all we're going to be looking at very quickly. So here we have that these are some of the things that Power Platform can help them do. For instance, we assume that the application support team in the current system, they create and maintain applications using the Excel. That could take a lot of time. Having to enter Excel sheets and all of that. So we could create a Power App. Precisely, we could create a model-driven application that has a business process flow that allows them, that guides them through the process of filling the forms and makes it a bit efficient instead of having to deal with Excel sheets. Also, the application support team at the moment in the current system have issues with sending or having to copy Excel files in order to be able to send them to the decision makers. So with Power Automate, we can actually create emails that will actually automate those processes, like send emails automatically instead of having to be sending one by one. As records are created, Power Automate can actually automate the process of, once it senses that a record has been created, it sends notification to whoever is supposed to be aware of that record being added. Okay, then decision team also needs to provide a decision concerning emails. So with Power Automate, they can actually the approval process can basically be automated. Similarly, application support teams can update application status uh, in Excel. So usually the current system is such that the application support team updates the application status and other details in Excel. So with Power Apps, they can actually leverage Power Apps in order to be able to control how login is done using security rules and the likes. Similarly, the at the moment the application support team they usually update the status for every individual. With Power Apps, I mean, we can actually create a model-driven application that will update, I mean, that will automatically update the status of the application without necessarily having to do it in a manual way. So let's see very quickly how we can actually leverage Power Apps. I'll just walk you through like some of the steps. I won't try to do everything, but I'll just show you typically how very, very easily we can actually create a model-driven application in a very short time to be able to help the business achieve their goals. So let's quickly jump into it and show you some one or two things relating to how to create this model-driven application. So let me stop this, go back to back. So usually in the so this is the maker portal. This is where the whole action happens. The maker portal is where you can actually go about creating different applications, whether it's whether it's model-driven applications, canvas applications, or that. So what I usually like to do is to start out creating a solution. So basically, a solution is just like a container that allows us to be able to move our applications very easily between different environments. Supposing this is like a development environment and you want to be able to move to a UAT or a production environment, you want to have your components, all the things you build within a solution. So let's call this one um, um, prototype. I'll just call it, it could be anything, prototype solution. Okay, prototype business solution. And then publisher here just basically talks about more like an identifier to be able to separate one solution from another. So I'll just give it a name. I'll just call it prototype. Okay, call it prototype. And here, the prefix, everything that is created under this solution would start with new by default. So let me change that to prototype. Okay, that's the way of being able to differentiate one listing from another. And I think it also has a length. I cannot add more than what I have just I have like 8 text there, so I cannot have more than this for the prefix. Click on save, and then let me add that, then click on create. So what I'm basically doing is just basically creating a container that is going to hold the application that I'm trying to build. So I'll call that prototype solution. It could be any name that is representative of what you're trying to do. You could call it maybe the name of the business solution, something like that. Okay, so now that I have my solution, it's empty, there's nothing inside. So we want to go ahead and begin to create some applications. Now, to be able to build any application, for instance, we want to build a model-driven application for this particular business scenario. We need data, so we need to go ahead we need to start by creating some kind of data. All right, so this data is usually like a table in the database table. So we're going to go ahead and let me show you how to do that by clicking on new, and I'm going to click on table. So this is going to represent like my application request now. So I'm going to call it something prototype application. Permit me that I'm calling it prototype application. It could be maybe grant application. I'll just call it prototype grant application. Grant application. So this is going to be like the name of the database. And then of course I can go ahead and click create. So it says provisioning your table in the background. You may continue making changes. So very shortly, it's already done. So it has created that table, and automatically there is a default there's a default field or a column in that table, which is called name. You could make it required or you could make it optional. Another thing I like to do is to make it like an auto number. So it's generating automatically. So every time a new record is created, it auto generates. And the good thing about it also is that you can actually add some prefix to it. So this is what it will look like as it's generating records. You can add some prefix. Say, for instance, we want to call it prototype grant, so we can call it maybe PG, something like PG01, or maybe grant request GR, something like that. So you can have prefix so that as it's generating the numbers or generating the auto number automatically, it will be incrementing in this order with this prefix. So click on done, and then I'll click on save. So that's one. So another thing, so we just have one field now. Let's, looking at the business scenario, let's assume that they want to be able to collect a number of data. Let me just do like 4 or 5. We're not going to do the full thing. I'll show you a finished one, but I'll show you the process of getting there very, very quickly. So let's create like 3 extra fields to just to show you or give you an idea of how to create data within your Dataverse. So this is the Dataverse environment. This is like Dataverse. Now we're actually creating tables that are being stored in Dataverse and can be accessed by all of the other Power Apps components. Okay, so let's just quickly create like 1 or 2. So for instance, we want to be able to get the applicant's name. Okay, the person applying for the grant. And then, of course, the data type here is just talking about what kind of data we try. So when we talk about the name, we're expecting things like text. These are some of the other data types we have, but we're going to come to that. So let's just pick text for now. It says, is it required? So there are 3 options. You can make it optional. So if it's optional, then the field will not be a required field. If you make it recommended, it will show like a blue cross beside the name such that it's business recommended. It's not compulsory, but we think you should have it as a business recommended field. For required, when it's there, it has this red mark beside it, meaning that if the user does not fill that record, the record will not be able to submit it, to throw an error and say, okay, this field is required. So you decide whether the field should be required or not. You can actually decide from here. So let's make this one optional for now. Okay, no, let's make it required since it's a name. So let's make it required. Yeah, required. So we need the name of the person, and I'll just add maybe 1 or 2 more. We need to know the business type, for instance, business type. So this is a different type of data now. So we're assuming that this is going to be like a drop down option. So to be able to do a drop down option in Power Platform, it's called choice. You have choice and choices. So choice allows us to choose just one option. Choices allows us to choose multiple options. So I'll choose choice. And then here you see that this choice is required. So I need to click on it, and then it gives me options. These are examples of choices I already have in the system. So you can actually go in and let's see. I think I have business type already. So I can just choose one of this, just choose this. And then let's see what is already. So it has already, I already have some example business types that I can actually leverage. So pick that. Okay. So what this will do is that every time you click on the business type, it will show a drop down. And then finally click on done. Let me add just one more table just to show you how that works. Click one more. Let's call this legal business name. Business name. Okay. That can be text. And then we click on done and then save. Okay. So by doing this, we've been able to create some data that is going to be captured. So what the business users will basically do is identify all the data that needs to be captured in their application, and then they will enter that into the by creating a table and then entering all of those columns into the system. Next thing now is, let's assume we want to now build a model-driven application. Remember that I said a model-driven application depends on tables or having data that is already created in Dataverse. So we've created one now. So let's see how easy it is to create a model-driven application. So to do that, I am within my solution now called prototype solution, and inside it I have this table. I have this table already. So I want to add an app now. I want to add a model-driven application. So I'm going to go ahead and where it says new here, I see a lot of options, new. So I'm going to click on app. App is at the top. And then you see the options. I can create a Canvas application. If you want to create a Canvas application, you can go ahead and click on that. You can create a model-driven application, which is what I'm going to do. And then, so we come to this area that says model-driven application from blank. Okay, the options, we have our modern app designer, which is still in preview. Usually I stay away from previews as long as it's still in preview, that it means that it can still change. So I'll go with the classic app designer and then click on create. So what we're trying to do now is to create a model driven application. So it expects us to give it a name. So we can give it a name by saying something like prototype, prototype business grant application, grant app. You could name it anything you want to name it and give it a description if you like. But with this, we're good to go. So that's the name of the model-driven application. I'll click on done. Now that brings us to this view. Remember the view we saw when we were looking through the slide. So this is the app designer view that allows us to be able to define what are the tables. So when you see entity, you see table, they are the same thing. So what are the various tables? At the moment, there's no table in this model-driven application, so it's not a model-driven application. And that is why you see this error saying configuration missing, because there is no entity. At the moment, there's no entity. That's why I say that it's a data-driven application. If there is no table in your model-driven application, it's not a model-driven application. Okay, so how do we add entities? How do we add tables to our model-driven application? All we need to do is go to the sitemap, which is giving us an error. You see the pencil icon there. Click on it. And then by clicking on it, it will bring us into this view. So we have area. Area basically stands for like, so this, we have area, we have group, and then we have sub area. Okay. This is easy to explain if you're familiar with Dynamics 365, just the way we have area, group, and sub area. So this is where we actually define the area, what should be in the area, what should be in the group, and what should be in the sub area. Okay, so if I click here, I'm going to just put something. I'm going to say grant application. So if I'll click on new area, and then I'm going to come where it says title, and then I'm going to say grant application. Grant application. So I'll click on save. Then for the group, I can just give it a group name, anything that we're supposing we have multiple sub areas. We could just give it a group name. It could just be like applications with an S, or application requests. Okay, application requests, and then the sub area now. Yes, for the sub area, this is where we specify the entities we want to add to our table. So for instance, I want to maybe add the grant application that we created. So prototype, I think we called it prototype grant application. Yes, so I want to add that. So you see here, it shows prototype grant application. Supposing I want to add one other entity, I can actually come here and then you say sub area. And then here in the entity, I'll choose whatever entity I want it to be. It could be account, for instance. And then I'll just click on, so you see it shows up here. And that now becomes the navigation for our application. I'll show you what I mean shortly. Now, to be able to also make it interesting, let me add one more area. I'll just click on add new area so that you'll be able to appreciate the essence of this sitemap. So here I'm going to call it primary tables. Okay, and then here under it, I'm going to create a group called primary. And then under it, so this is a group, and then under it, I'm going to have a sub area. I'm going to just call it contact. I'll call it contact, select an entity, just call it contact. Okay, all right, so I'll click on save. If there's any error, it will show it at the top here when you try to save. But if there's no error, it means everything is fine. Currently, it's in draft state, so I'll click on publish so that I publish those changes that I just made. And very shortly, you'll see your model-driven application appear. You notice when we opened the page initially, it was entity view 0. Now that we added all of those links, we added account, we added contact, we added prototype grant application. That is why you see those 3 applications showing now. And now if we click on save, very quickly, click on publish, and then finally let's click on play. Let's see the application in action. And yes, so this is a model-driven application with little, I didn't write any line of code and areas. So these are the areas here, primary tables and grant application. Then if I choose primary tables, for instance, I see contacts. So that is the link I'm seeing under primary tables. If I switch to grant application, I see these 2 sub areas. So this is the sub area and this is the group name. So that's where all of that. So this is area, this is the group name, the group of links, and of course, this is the sub area. So if I switch to this, this is the area, this is the group primary called primary, and of course, this is the link there. So this is a model-driven application. And notice I didn't have to write any line of code. I can actually go in and add new records and all of that. So that is how easy it is to create a model-driven application. Now let's enhance this model-driven application a bit by adding a process, a business process flow. Remember, we're trying to solve a business challenge. So let's see how easy it is to create a business process flow. I mean, based off this, what we already have in this model-driven application, such that when someone comes in, goes to grant application, and then when they click on new, they'll be able to see like a business process flow that guides them gradually through the various components. I'll just show you how to do that. And then I'll just show you a fully completed application so that you can actually appreciate how easy it is to actually create such things. So let's see how we can actually create a business process flow now for this application. But first, you notice that we only have 1 field here. This is just name. And remember, grant application, we created up to 3 different fields. So let's see how we can actually first and foremost bring in those fields into this form. Let's add that and then now go ahead and create our business process flow. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the first tab where I have my solutions here. And then I'm going to click on prototype grant application. That's the table that I created. Click on it. So these are the fields we have. So let's see how we can actually add business type, legal business, and applicant name. Let's see how we can add those 3 fields into the form. So how do we locate the forms? Now you see some items here just under this. We see relationships, business rules. So this is for adding business rules, views, and we see forms. So we click on forms because we want to update the forms with all of the data, that the custom fields that we created. So there are 3, you see information in 3 places, but the way to differentiate them is by looking at the form type. So we're interested in the main form. The main form is the one that shows here. So this is the main form we are seeing here. So come here and click on main. And then this will take us to a design view. We're going to be looking at the design view now. Aha. So you see that this closely looks like what we are seeing here, name and owner. So by the time I come here now, all I just need to do is do some drag and drop, and I'll have a modified form. So how do I do that? Click on name, for instance. Why am I clicking on name? I'm clicking on name because whatever, when I click on it like this, whatever I add in, whatever field I add will come right under it. If I want it to come right after owner, all I just need to do is click on owner and then go to where it says ABC on the left there. You can expand it by actually clicking on the hamburger menu at the top there. That shows you that it's table columns. So what we're looking at in that ABC is table columns. So I want to add some table columns. So if I click on it, it shows me all of the existing table columns, and it says show only unused ones. So these are the ones I have not used on this form. So let's assume I want to put them under name, for instance. So click on name. I want to add the applicant name. Yes, I want to add the applicant name. I want to also add the business type. You can see that it's just coming. So anything that is highlighted, once you click on the next one, it comes directly under that and like that. Okay, so we have all of the fields we just created. And so our form is looking a bit different. So we save it to keep the changes and then publish. By publishing it, we're telling the system, okay, we made this change. Please be aware of it. Anywhere this form is being referenced, be aware of those changes. So I've just saved it. Take note that when we come here, we don't see the change until we do a refresh. So we come here, refresh. Sometimes you may need to refresh like twice. And then you notice that all the fields we added here, now are now showing here. Okay, similarly for the business, those business users, they will add in whatever fields they feel is relevant, add all of them into the form so that a user will be able to interact with that form. So now that we've added all the fields we need to see, let's now see how to create a business process flow, like a guided flow that will actually guide them through filling this form. Supposing it's a very large form and you want to guide them, filling it stepwise. How do we create a business process flow from this form? So to do that, all we just need to do is to go to, I'll just go back. Again, we'll go back to so this is the solution. This is the table that we created. So we need to make this table, we need to make it a business, or we need to enable it for business process flows. So to do that, I'll click on solution, which is the container that I created earlier. And then I'm going to switch to classic view. So this is the recent view. So I'm going to just go back and switch to classic view because sometimes we still usually need to reference the old view. And again, this view will not be too strange if someone's already familiar with Dynamics 365. This is what the back end looks like. Okay, so we switch over to this view, and what we want to do basically is just to enable that entity, the entity we created, the prototype grants application. We want to make it be able to recognize or work with business process flows. So to do that, I'll just come to where it says entities, and then you see we have just one entity within our solution, which is called prototype grant application. And then this is the form. This is what it looks like. So this is the name, the plural name. And then you see where it says process, you see business process flow fields will be created. Now there is this plus sign. And what it means is that once you change or you set a field, a table or an entity as business process flow, you can't revert. That's the meaning of that plus sign. If you see it beside anything, it means that once you make that change, if I select this and I click on save, I can't go back. So I must be very sure that I actually want to make that entity enabled for business process flows. So once I do that and I click on save, notice that it will become read only. It's blue now, but once I click on save, it's updating it. And now it's read only now. It's no longer, it's gray, meaning that I can't make any change to it again. It's final. It's a final thing. So that's what I've done. I've just enabled it to be able to work with business process flow. So I'm going to go ahead and publish it to let us know that this particular entity should be enabled for business process flow. Now that we've already enabled it, how can we now create a business process flow? Remember, this business process flow is going to be integrated into our model-driven application, the one we just built. So how do we go ahead and build a business process flow? So now that we've enabled it, we go back to our application. That is, we come here. So under processes, see processes somewhere here. So it's very, very tiny, but it's to the left under web resources. So click on it. And here we'll click on new. We want to create a new business process flow. So I'm going to call it prototype grant application business process flow. I'm just going to shorten it. Okay, the category is business process flow. So there are three options. We have action, business process flow, dialogue, and workflow. So we'll just choose business process flow. And now it's telling me what entity do you want to use as the base entity for your business process flow. So if I did not check, if I did not enable the business process flow for the grant application table, I won't be able to find it here. But because I did that, I'll be able to find it here by simply typing, going to grant application. Yes. So the reason why I'm seeing it here is because I enabled it for business process flows. Okay, so once I've filled in all the required fields, basically just the name, the category, business process flow, and the entity, I can go ahead and click on OK. Okay, now we have our business process flow. So if I click on it, it will open up a page. The page is actually showing right here. Okay, so this is what a typical business process flow looks like. So this is the design view for our business process flow. We have stage. This is an initial stage. And then we on the right here, we have components that can allow us to be able to add various stages. So I'm just going to add one or two stages just to show you, and then I'll show you a finished application where we actually make use of different components, or different components from this list to be able to generate the business process flow. So let me just start. So basically, this shows us one stage. This is stage one, the very first stage, where you can actually name it anything. It says new stage, so we can actually say maybe screening stage. This is the screening stage, and once you enter a display name, you must remember to click on apply. Otherwise, the change will not be saved. So you need to always click on apply after adding any new step. So what we want to do here basically is just to show like a bar at the top of this area, a bar that will basically, when you click on it, you'll be able to fill some data, and as you're filling the data, it will be populating this form. So that's what we're trying to do now. So we're trying to design it very, very quickly. All right, so where is my view again? I think it has hidden out of my view. Just 1 minute, we get it. There we go. Okay, so what data am I interested in? So I'll click on data step, and then I'm going to come here and pick, okay, I'm interested in the applicant's name, for instance, screening information, and then I'm going to click on apply. When I click on apply, notice that the data step has updated to applicant name instead of just saying data step 1. It has updated. Also, I want to be able to add another data step. So let's add another one right below it here. And very quickly, we just add applicant name. So let's say address, and then click on, yeah, click on apply. So we have address. Now let me add one more stage. Another stage will just be like business. So we call this one business information, business info, and let's just add one field there so that we can save and run it. Okay, so what we're adding here is business type, apply, and yeah, let's save what we have. So when you click on the save button, it will tell you whether or not there are errors, and to be able to point out what the errors are. So if you don't get any errors, you see a validation success, and you can actually go ahead and either validation successful, then activate. So activating it now simply means that it becomes active. So the system is able to recognize it. So I click on activate, click on activate again, and finally gets activated. Wait 1 or 2 seconds, and it should be done. All right, almost there. There we go. So it's activated now. So how do we know it's activated? It changes the activate button changes to deactivate, meaning that for us to be able to make any change now to the business process flow, we have to deactivate it. So now that we've done that, let's go and see what is happening now on our form. We'll come to our form, we'll do a quick refresh. and then go back and click on prototype. Let's click here one more time, refresh, so that the change propagates. Now let's click on new. Notice something is going to change about our form. Now, maybe I needed to do, I think I need to publish customizations from here. Yes, I need to publish all customizations just to make sure that the system is aware that I have made that change. So what we're expecting to see here is you see a business process flow basically showing us how we can actually fill in the information. So waiting for it to publish. Publishing customizations. So once this is done, I believe the system should be fully aware that the change has been made in the back end. 3, 2, 1, there we go. So it's done. Now we're going to come here again, do another refresh. And yeah, so when I click on new, I should see okay. So basically, let me just go back and show you what I want us to see. I don't know why that is acting up now, but let's open up one that we've already done. So like this one, for instance, we open up the model-driven application, we run it, and application requests. So when you click on new, for instance, yes, so this is what we should see. I mean, the various stages that we have in the system. So what a user will be able to do now is to come here and then begin to fill in the form very quickly. So one or more, so this is like the questions that the business needs to ask the user. Do they have one or more business affiliates? No or yes. If they have yes as an answer. And then of course, if they choose no, there's a condition that checks, that prevents them from seeing these other things. So if I just say, for instance, if I say affiliate businesses received funding, in other words, have they received funding in any way before? If they click on yes, now they are no longer, it shows the next thing they see is not eligible. So they just go ahead and if you click on save, click on next stage, and then I save this, it would run a flow and then let them know that they are not approved because they've been funded or they've received a fund previously. I'm going to show you what the business process flow looks like. Then let's try to create another application, click on new. And then here now you notice there should be 4 stages. So the reason why the user was cut off from that stage was because they selected yes here. So if they leave this as no, and then they click on save, it will allow them to move to the next stage of filling the form. So the next stage is where they need to specify contact information. So you can go ahead and create a new contact information. The most important thing there, I think, is just prototype at demo.com. So just any email. So when they put in the email, now they are now in the second stage. Notice how they've moved from the screening stage to the contact information stage. And because of that data we entered, they already have some data, so they can actually fill in the remaining data by saying things like, okay, test some first name, last name, fill in an address, fill in a city, fill in the postal code, whatever, and then of course you can also specify a province and next stage. Okay, so the next stage is filling in the business information. So that's why it brings up a drop down saying create. So this is where we are capturing the business that that particular user is affiliated with, test demo is affiliated with. So if we click on save and close, it creates that record. And now we notice that we have moved to stage 3 where we are entering business information, things like the business name, what's the legal business name? Let's say demo organization. It could be the operating business name, could be anything. Legal organization, it could be anything. The CRA number. You could add some business logic to check maybe the length. If it is less than a certain length, maybe prevent the user from submitting the form. I think it should be like 9 digits or so. Okay, then the business type. So you see that drop down that we created earlier. So you can actually come here and choose from the drop down, and then a quick description of the business. Anything. Next. Right, so notice now that we've moved to the next stage, which is the stage where they can actually be approved or not approved, as the case may be. So if, for instance, the thing approves, then that ends the application. Okay, so this is what the business process flow looks like. Let me show you the what happens behind just quickly. Show you very quickly what's happening. So we have grant application. Yes, let's open this just to give you an idea of what is going on there. So we have different stages. So the condition that actually prevents them. So there's this condition that says that when the user says when the affiliated business, so this is the data here, affiliated business value, when the value is no, then it means that the person has not received any grant previously, so they can actually proceed through this stage. But if the user chooses yes, then this part is executed. So what they'll see is they're not eligible. So that's the reason why it just cut as soon as the person said no. Sorry, as soon as the person said yes here, it shifted the user towards this point, and then by the time they click on save, it just tells them that they are not approved because of this workflow. So this workflow will just set the status to not approved once they do not meet this eligibility criteria. Otherwise, they proceed until the very end where they do the application request. So this is what the business process flow basically does. So it provides at each of the stages, you can enter different kind of data that should be imputed by the user at the different stages. Okay, so let's wrap up. And then let me go back to my slide. So with Power Platform, we've just seen how we can actually move from paper to automation very, very quickly. And of course, once a business user is already aware of this, they know the problem, they are able to they relate to the problem on a daily basis. They can actually use these tools and go ahead and develop solutions that meet their needs. So Power Automate basically is a service for automating workflows across apps and services. So just like the other ones, this is the flow. This is the way we create our Power Automate flow. So we start by connecting to a data source. So you need to connect to a data source, and then from there, based on the data you get from there, you can actually create triggers or actions that will work depending on what that data, what you're trying to look for in that data. You can actually create workflows that will be based off that data. And of course, the Power Automate flow is able to run on different devices. And with it, we can actually carry out approve requests using either web or mobile. So there are different common scenarios for using Power Automate. You could use it for automated approvals. You could use it for processes that are recurring in nature. So they happen over and over and over again. You could use it for process guidance to guide users through a procedure. Or you could also cause it, you could also trigger it manually, maybe to test something. So this is an example of a Power Automate flow. So we see here that the record, we're getting our records from Dataverse. So we're saying when a record is created, a record is updated, or a record is deleted, then something should happen. So we're saying it should start and wait for an approval. Okay, so meaning that once a record is created, updated, or deleted, the system should start and wait for an approval. In other words, someone it will wait for someone to, approve maybe the request, supposing it's a request. And then once the condition is met, once the conditions for start and wait is met, it executes whatever this condition is. So this is an example of a Power Automate flow. Now, what makes up a flow? There are different things that make up that flow. Recall that in the previous slide, we only saw just a bar. Now, by the time you click on that bar, it opens up and shows us that, oh, we can actually specify what the trigger condition should be. Should it be when the record is created, or when, and then what entity are we looking at? What entity are we putting the trigger on? So here you specify, for instance, we could call our own prototype grant application. The scope basically talks about how do you want this to be visible across the organization, or just the user that is executing it. So usually it's good to go with organization, meaning that anyone in the organization can execute that business process flow. And then in the start and wait, when you open it up, we have different types of approval. You have the option to approve stroke reject on the first response. That means if you have like 3 or 4 persons that are supposed to approve, the first person to respond, whatever whatever they give, if they approve or reject, that will be the status of the application. And then, of course, you need to specify also the title. So when they get the notification that they are supposed to approve something, what should be the title they see? So for instance, they could see new application request, and then it will show the name of the application dynamically. And then, of course, it will show who it is assigned to. So this is what a typical workflow looks like. It can be activated manually. It could be activated on a schedule, probably maybe on a daily basis, run at 5 o'clock, or maybe you want to schedule it on a certain event. When a certain event happens, that flow should be triggered. So we have the trigger and the action. These are the 2 things that make up a flow, a Power Automate flow. So there are 3 ways through which we can actually create a flow in Power Apps very quickly. We can actually create it either using starting from blank, using a template, or starting from a connector. So what are the various Power Automate templates we have at our disposal? We have quite a number of them. We have those that allow us to notify a team when form responses are submitted. So anytime a form is submitted, for instance, supposing you're working with Teams and Microsoft Forms, for instance, you can actually use this flow that has already been designed by Microsoft. You see, by Microsoft there. So these are some of the things that have already been built by Microsoft, which you can actually leverage for your business situation. Or you could have, so depending on this, there are quite a number of them which are usually featured, and this kind of shows the number of people that have actually downloaded it. So many people are actually finding value in it. So you can actually start with Power Automate templates, which Microsoft has created, or you can start from a connector. That is, you can connect to a data source. You can connect to Twitter, you can connect to SharePoint, you can connect to OneDrive, you can connect to Outlook if that's where your data source is. You can connect to that and create your Power Automate flow from there. Okay, so let me see if I can actually show you how. I'll just show you one of the flows that I created, just explain it, and then yeah, we'll just take
And just so you
questions.
know, Adewale,
Yeah,
as a time check, we got about 10 minutes left.
sure. Thank you so much. All right, so let's just show you. Let me show you one of those cloud flows that I have. Okay, yeah. I'll just walk you through what it's doing. So let's pick one of it, edit. Just walk you through the process. So just like our business process flow, this also gives us a very interactive view where you just come in and specify what you want to happen. So let me just quickly explain what this flow is doing. So it's the data source that we're connecting to is Dataverse. That's why we see this logo here. So when a row is added, modified, or deleted, what should happen? So it says change type. There are 3 options. You have added, added or deleted, added or modified. So I chose modified, meaning that if a particular record is modified for the table called application request, it could be grant app, it could be whatever table that you're using. So I have a table called application requests. So that's the table I want. Anytime it's modified, that should be the trigger for this flow. All right. And the scope again should be organization. These are some other options. And then in the condition, we're checking if there's a field called, the field here is called applicant name, is not blank. If the applicant name is not blank on a form and the business name is also not blank, then we want to execute this flow. So if these two conditions hold true, send an email. So this is going to send an email. You can specify who you want the email to go to. In this case, it could be an approval or something. So send whoever the email is going to be going to, and then the title. We can actually like okay, application request. You can pull all of these automatically. So this is going to be pulling the name automatically from Dataverse and populating it. It will also tell what kind of applicant the person is, and then of course the business information about that applicant. So basically this is what a business, just basically a like a flow diagram, or a that actually you can actually just be adding step by step what you want to be to achieve, and it will just help you in the process of building it. And once you're done, you can always test and confirm that the flow is working properly. So at this point, I'd like to stop and take a few questions. In summary, before I actually even take, let me just quickly summarize. So Microsoft Power Platform offers us a point and click approach, which makes it easy for anyone that is familiar with Microsoft Office or Excel. I mean, to be able to analyze using Power BI, act, create applications using Power Apps, automate using Power Automate, and assist using Power Virtual Agent. Okay, so let me hand over to Steve so I can wrap up, and then I'll take questions.
Thank you. Thanks for the demonstration and going through what a Power Platform can do. So we talked a couple times about how Microsoft does set up these systems in a way so that um, it's not daunting for new users. However, the training that we offer, whether you're brand new to a Power Platform and any of the services that are a part of it, or you have some experience, with the service already, our training will help you take you to the next level of proficiency faster. So these course offerings and more you can see on our website at eperformanceinc.com. So we have dashboard and reporting with Power BI, and then Power Platform Fundamentals, App Maker, Functional Consultant, and Developer. If you're interested in any of these courses, again, either please visit our website, or you can contact Melissa, and her contact information is coming up there. I'm going to post both the link to our website in the chat, and I'm going to post a link to a survey. The survey will help us at ePerformance Inc. know, what types of courses are in demand, what types of webinars would be best to help introduce people to our courses, and providing your email address, and it gives you an opportunity to win uh, 20% off of a course of your choice. Thank you very much for joining, and we hope to hear from you again soon.